Hello, Com 131. Well, it is April 6th, and we're on our way to the end of the semester, just a few weeks left. So I thought I should take a minute and kind of, update you with where we're at and what's going on. Thank you for sending your messages to me and reading your feedback and getting back with your fellow students. I have really enjoyed the impromptus and the speeches. They're terrific. I know that you only have to look at a few, but this is when I miss being in the classroom because they're so good. And I think you would learn so much and you would have those reactions and interactions with other students. But we're going to do the best we can. So I would recommend, if you get a chance, even if you don't want to critique some speeches, maybe for the last two, the persuasion and the tribute, take a minute and, just kind of go through them and see who your classmates are and remember them, because you all have had some amazing messages. I'm really impressed. I wrote a little sheet down here on some of the things I wanted to hit tonight and go over. First of all, why demonstrations? Well, what I found is, of all the speeches that you give, demonstrations are probably something that you will use the most. And that could be that you're giving a speech at work or a talk or a presentation, but you need to use visual aids. So just being aware of using the visual aid only when you're talking to the audience, making it big enough to see, don't pass things out where they're not listening to you and looking at the visual aid. Just being prepared and remembering that clarity, interest, and retention is what using visual aids is all about. That's why we wanted to do that. And you guys did a great job. Those were so fun. They were really awesome. Joshua sent me his late, and it was on playing the guitar. I wish I could have loaded it in for you to see. It was really great, really fun. He had a lot of enthusiasm about that. But all of you did. Even if you were doing baking and cooking and things like that, I always pick up great tips. People do things differently, so it's fun to see what you do. But wonderful job, so thank you for all of that you shared with that. And again, that's why we do demos. Using visual aids are critical to getting a message across, to make it more clear, more interesting, and help people remember. So I recommend really using some kind of a visual aid with almost any speech. It should never overwhelm your presentation, and you need to keep it short, even if it's a PowerPoint. 6 slides with not a lot of words can do a lot, but just something to think about. All right, so after the demonstrations, and I know you've completed that, I had you do the pet peeve, kind of work on that over break. And the reason I did that is, some of you were like, no, I really don't like to argue. You said that at the beginning of the semester. Well, you don't have to argue, but there are things that drive us crazy. So what pet peeves do is it reminds you that there are things that annoy you and irritate you, and maybe things that you'd like to see changed. And also it gives you an opportunity to use expression in your language. So if you listened to some of these pet peeves, as I did, I heard things like, I hate it when, I can't stand it, it's so irritating, it drives me crazy. That's when you know an issue really gets to you. So anyway, I wanted you to start doing that because one of the things that's coming up soon is there's going to be a little thing about, language use. Usually I put those extra things in that I don't want to lecture on or anything, so you can take your quiz on it, your 5-point weekly quiz. But, just think about that, because when you are going to persuade someone or you're trying to advocate for your point of view, you're going to be more passionate and your language is going to be more passionate. So I wanted you to get in touch with, that you do have language that you use when it's like, this is going to make me crazy. I just can't stand it when this happens. And you also could have the same kind of passion for something you're excited about. Like, this is amazing. This is brilliant. So I wanted you to think about those things. I had you do a little thing about hearing versus listening. That was just, like for the quiz. But this is important that you remember. People choose to listen. It is a choice. It is paying attention. Hearing is just what we're capable of hearing. Your ear can hear different things. So sometimes it becomes background noise. Like if you live by the railroad tracks all your life, after a while, you don't really hear the trains. If you live in the city and you go to the country, you'll think it's peaceful. No, you're going to hear every noise, every cricket, every bug, every frog. It'll drive you nuts, and vice versa. If you spend the night at somebody's house and they have a clock or a furnace that comes on, you're going to go, what was that? So we adapt our listening, our ability to hear things to where we're at, and then the listening, the choice kicks in when we kind of choose to, or when something startles us, or if it's like your kid. You know your child's cry over anything. You know if they're hurt, if they're upset, if they're mad, you know that. So that would be another thing you might tune into. A car. I could tell who's coming over if I hear their car in the driveway. Oh, that's Chris. She's coming over right now. That's so-and-so. So that's how I would get used to those kinds of sounds. Or if I drive my car, I would say there's something wrong with my wheel. It sounds like a jet taking off. It's so you know your own stuff. Other people might not hear it, but you do, because you were not paying attention to it until it was different from what you heard. Okay, so just recall that we have to make people listen. When we start talking about audience analysis, perception, and persuasion, we usually have a target group in mind that we want to deliver our message to. And we have to formulate the message so that people can see what's in it for me. Why do I need to know this information? Why do I need to understand this? What am I going to gain from this? So it helps us to put things in our speech to help people be better listeners by letting them know that there's something in there for them. Okay. Now, audience analysis, that was, information. I thought it was great that you went through and just kind of summarized it and gave it back to me. I thought it was a good way to learn it. But, think about this. Your attitudes have changed over the years. I know they have. If you think back to how you were 5 years ago or 10, now I know some of you are very young, so 10 years would be stretching it. But people change. You change your friends, or, you don't hang out with as many people. You change things you do. You get a job and you're working all the time, or you make a commitment, you're in a relationship. Whenever these big things happen in life, you start paying bills, living on your own, that really will change how you're going to do things. And therefore, your perception or how you see things and your attitude can also change. It might used to be real fun to go out and party every night, but now all of a sudden it's not. You got to be to work at 8 a.m. and you're like, no, I don't have time for that. Not that you don't want to party sometimes, sure, but it just gives you a different way to look at it and understand it, okay? I also remember thinking my parents weren't that bright about some of the things that they did when I was little, and then as soon as I had kids, I'm like, oh my God, they were genius. So, we get a different point of view when we're looking at it from another perspective. Okay, so with the audience analysis, the main thing I wanted you to know was that you do have to tailor your speech to the group of people you're going to talk to. You have to use examples they can relate to, situations that they can relate to. One that I can mention is, I think in 5th grade, a lot of you did the DARE, Drug Awareness Resistance Education. That was a big deal. You had the police officers come in, you got a little badge, you probably got something, you had to read your essays. It was, don't smoke, grandma, and really important stuff, and this is a bad drug. But when you're in 10th grade, do you really think DARE is going to work? No, it is not going to work. So then what do they use to try to get through to you? They bring in the crashed automobiles. They have parents come in of their kids that have died from your high school class that, were in accidents. Maybe they snuck out and went drinking. And I know this happens. I mean, I know this happens. I was a teenager, so I know things happen like that. And so they'll use autopsy photos or crashed cars to try to scare you, which is what they're thinking is, teenagers, and I mentioned this to a few of you that shared some things recently, young people think that they're going to live forever and nothing can touch them. And unfortunately, that's not true. I mean, I hope that you live many, many, many great years, but the texting and driving and the drinking and driving, very, very dangerous to take your eye off the road. And not only because of what it does to you, as some of you mentioned in those persuasive impromptus, what it does to your family, or the other people that, this can impact. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, so audience analysis, make sure that you put your information, your reasoning, your examples, even your visual aids to something that your audience, could understand. I brought this in for fun. I don't know if it's going to work. Have you ever seen these? You probably have in psychology. So this is either a duck or a rabbit. And this is the mouse or a rat, or the old man with the bifocals. And that's one of several that I usually like to show in class. what can you see? What do you see? So not to bring up the trial too early, you know, the Derek Chauvin trial, which, you know, I'm not watching the trial, I'm just watching the news that summarizes it later. They spent a lot of time laying the groundwork about what did everyone witness. And that's because at the scene of something, everyone has what they see as their point of view and their truth. This is what I saw. This is what I noticed. This is what I heard. And so you put it all together to try to get a better picture of what went on. If you only listen to one person, we say things like there's two sides to every story. Not two sides to that story, by the way, but I'm sure there'll be something they'll come up with. But just the idea that you'll say, well, yeah, but that isn't really how it went. You know, so-and-so never even told me that. And you're like, they didn't tell you? They said they did. No, they told me something different. So you have to recall that when we're looking at our audience and we're understanding, you know, how are they thinking the way they think, and, you know, what is their perception of something, we have to look at many points of view to understand how people see this. And if you think about things like that when you are preparing a persuasive appeal, remember, I mean, I had like 2 semesters on just persuasion. You have like 1 or 2 weeks of just exposing you to it. So it's the idea that, you know, how could you advocate for something? How could you convince people to do something that you want them to do? How could you get them to take action you want them to take? You have to understand what you've got to present to make that argument, okay? So that they can understand. And sometimes you have to acknowledge that there is another point of view. I get it, there's another point of view, you know, and that's what you sometimes have to say. Okay, so I'm gonna slip over here to the next sheet about your persuasive speech. And this information, you know, I really do try to line up my module so that you can go right through and find the stuff. And, you know, I want you to see that. The most common way to organize a persuasive speech is reasons why. List your reasons why with your most important reason last. Remember, this is the most important reason to you, so you're gonna have some muscle behind it. You know, like, hey, this is really the reason you need to know it. And that's probably the biggest thing. You still have an intro, body, and conclusion, but because you have reasons why as your main thing, you could probably have 3 to 5 reasons. You also could have a speech that is a problem solution. Here's the problem, here's a solution, and I recommend putting why the solution would work. So you're still kind of using reasons why, but you don't think people are just gonna blindly accept your solution if they don't understand the reasoning. And finally, you could do a speech that's cause effect. I don't know if you need to do that, but it is something that comes up. And that is, an event occurs, we wanna talk about what caused it and what the effects are, okay? What was the event, what caused this, and what are the effects we see? I'll just use something like fast food. Okay, I'm just gonna use it. Yep, I do, I eat it. Not much anymore, I really try to stay away, but you know, I do, I go there sometimes to fast food places. So, well, let's start with that. So why would we, you know, that's, the event is that we're eating fast foods and it's making some people not healthy. So we start first of, you know, what are the causes of all of this? What's going on? So we can talk about the ingredients that are in, you know, the food and, you know, this and that. Have you ever watched Super Size Me from years ago, like 20 years ago? Oh man, that was really good. Every time they'd say, would you like to supersize the order? The guy would. And he gained like 30 pounds in a month and his cholesterol went way up. I mean, really crazy story, but really interesting. So now they no longer supersize your orders, by the way, and they've changed all the oils and all this stuff and all that. That was a McDonald's example. But anyway, so we look at, you know, causes of what's been going on. And convenience. I mean, people like convenience, right? I mean, that's why I go down M15 and I go by a Tim Hortons. These people are out in the road, the highway, not just like a freaking dirt road or something, a highway lined up to get into Tim Hortons. I mean, like, somebody's gonna get killed. I cannot believe they're allowed to do that. But anyway, besides that, which I don't go to Tim Hortons or anything, I don't really need a donut in a coffee. Just want the coffee, and I'm not getting in that line. So anyway, just another thing. I don't know why I threw that in there. Just thought I would. But People want convenience. So to me, that isn't convenient. And they think they're getting a good deal. I don't think so anymore. I think you might as well get a better dinner or go buy your dinner if you have to at the grocery store. They have a lot of nice delis. At least it's, usually homemade. And if not, just learn to cook like grandma, right? Like, hey, tonight we're going to have this, this, and this, and we're going to have vegetables with that and whatever. Okay, so I'm getting off track a little bit, but that is some of the reasons why we would go to fast food, and some of the causes of what's going on is, we're sitting in our car too much, it's too convenient, we're not, whatever. Effects, if you think about that, especially for a lot of younger people, their blood pressure is going up, obesity is increasing, diabetes is increasing, heart disease is increasing, liver disease is increasing, and these are in people as young as 18. So we could look at the effects of that. And plus, is it really good for your budget? And is it really healthy? And then there's the family time. If you're just hurrying around, everybody eat in the car, we gotta go. Your car is messy. Your kids may not be eating as nutritionally as they need to. So I won't keep going on, but that's a cause-effect speech where you say, this event happened, what contributed to this, what's causing this, and what are the effects that we're seeing. Okay, so enough on that. The only other thing I want to mention is intro, body, conclusion. You can certainly put in point, counterpoint. Like, I know why people think this is a good idea. They think for this, this, and this. I'm here to tell you that I really share a different point of view, and this is why. And you can counter each of the points. And if you think that works for you, you can do it. In the conclusion of your persuasive speech, it's an action step, and your action can be passive or it can be active. In other words, tell them, hey, in the future, if you get a chance to vote, you might want to vote yes on this. It might be a great idea. Or you might say, listen, this week only, if you go and do this, this, and this, you're going to get something for it. So for example, right now at the Family Life Center in Mott on Court Street, I know that I think there are different times, like maybe let's just say 12 to 2 or 11 to 1, that you can drop off donations there to help people that are really in dire straits right now. So that's something that's if you do it right now, they're going to put your name in to win something. I'm giving blood on Friday, and they said your name will be entered to win 4 tickets to Indianapolis to whatever, NCAA or something next year. Well, I don't need to win that, but hey, maybe when you guys want the tickets if I win. But I'm still going to give blood. But so what I'm saying is these are incentives. We need you to do it right now. This is action. I want you to get out there and do this. You're going to feel good. It could be that kind of an incentive. You're going to feel good about yourself, or you're going to do great things for your community if you step up and do this. Just whatever it might be. So have an action plan, whether it's passive, like you can wait on this, think about it, or active, like I'd really like you to do it like right now, immediate. Okay, the last thing I really wanted you to understand about persuasion is it is a recipe. It is a recipe for success. Mosquitoes, darn it. So here's the recipe. If you want a good persuasive appeal, you need your evidence, reasoning, credibility, and emotional appeal. All right, evidence. So yeah, that should speak for itself. And it's got to be real evidence, not just crap that you found on Jerry Springer or some weird show, okay? Reasoning. Does it make sense? And I commented on many of your persuasive impromptus. Good reasoning. That made sense. I liked the things you listed, because you were just thinking kind of even on the spot, or maybe you just spent a short time doing it. But what if you had a week or two to prepare? You could think of more things. So evidence and reasoning, and then credibility. Many of you said, based on my experiences wearing, school uniforms, or based on my experience with, doing this or doing that. That is your credibility. Maybe it's somebody in your family that has told you something or shared something, or something you've researched or read about, or you volunteer with, or personally. Those 3 things, evidence, reasoning, and credibility, appeal to your head. As adults, as your frontal cortex is growing and adulting and stuff, it's giving you a greater ability to go through and do critical thinking. And that is when those 3 things come in, and they're very important, because let's say that I said, hey, you give me $300 a week, I will invest it for you, and at the end of 2 years, I'm going to double all your money. First of all, you probably don't have $300 a week. I don't have $300 a week to give anybody, but maybe you do. Good for you. Second of all, you don't know me. And I am, by the way, I'm not a financial genius, so probably not giving me the money would be a good idea. And then the third thing is you know, you've got to be skeptical of things like that. You know, like you hear about these scams all the time. What happens when people get older, they just want companionship. And if somebody uses all the body language things of smiling and visiting and how are you, and I'd love to do your roof, you know, if you can give me X much money, I can start on it, I'll go buy the materials, and then they walk away and they never see that money again. And that's one of many examples. But as adults, we start to get a little more critical thinking. You said this, but you didn't do that, and now I'm thinking this, and you know, credibility, not sure I can trust you on that. So those are important factors. The fourth part of the recipe is the emotional appeal. Now again, if you've watched any part of the news on the trial, the George Floyd trial, of the trial of Derek Chauvin, the police officer that kept his knee on his neck, a lot of people were crying and very upset. And that is a strong emotional appeal. But you know, you're gonna be emotional if you see something like that. You're gonna be, I saw my neighbor cry and cry and cry when her dog got hit by a car. Things that you see that are, you know, just sad and out of your control, you know, are very upsetting. So that is emotional appeal. When they show the dog commercials, you know, like, and they play the Sarah McLachlan music, somebody did that for their message, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, yeah, you want to help the pets. I mean, I like want to change the channel. I get like, oh my God, I can't look at that poor puppy. It's awful. So, you know, I get that. And when they say, hey, for the price of a cup of coffee a week, you know, you could help save a child. You know, I do UNICEF. I like to give to UNICEF. I don't know. I don't know what they do with the money. Maybe they steal the money. I don't know. But I'm hoping that it helps. I give blood. I give money to the American Red Cross because I think around the world we need to do something for disaster relief or to help some people. But, you know, I mean, I don't do a lot of crazy things. I just do, you know, an amount that I think I can handle and try to help a little bit. So it's the emotional appeal that pushes me to the end. It's the emotional appeal is, I would feel better as a person if I did something. I would feel like I'm at least doing something. And so that emotional appeal is very powerful. So in spite of the fact that our head has logic, our heart, that emotional appeal, can overcome it, okay? All right, enough said. Lots of great examples and ideas. I listed you a lot of ideas for a persuasive impromptu. I know this is a long lecture. Sorry, I'll try to end in about 5 or 6 minutes. But here are some examples that things that other students have done. Say no to tanning beds. Here's one that some of you will find familiar. No texting and driving. And some of you even talked about accidents that people you know have been in, and that's horrific. You know, could even be road rage. To buy or lease your automobile. I mean, if you don't have to put any money down, sometimes leasing is the only way. Work out from home, not the gym, but they called it the couch, not the elliptical. By the way, one of the best persuasive speeches I recall hearing was, your chair is killing you. Now, when this young man started his speech out like that, everybody was laughing like, ha ha ha. And I mean, I kind of laughed too a little bit. Well, how true is that? So the idea is that you're sitting around way too much. So I went ahead, and when I retired last March, I got one of those little Fitbits. No, I don't have an Apple Watch. I don't need everything on there. But it does remind you every hour to get up and walk 250 steps. Now, I know that does not sound like much, but the goal is to get 10,000 steps a day, maybe 8,000. I aim for, 8,000. Sometimes I get 10, sometimes I get 5, but I remember, because you know how easy it is to sit on the sofa and watch shows. I mean, come on, I've done it, you've done it. I notice if I go on trips, oh my God, like I told my husband, we have to stop at the rest area. We gotta get out, we gotta walk, I gotta get my time in, and we laugh about it, but we would stop and we would walk just to make sure that we did. Okay, enough said, but that was a really good speech because it made me think. This was the benefits of dark chocolate and why you should eat dark chocolate. A persuasive speech frequently uses the word should because they're implying that you should take action, okay? This is thrifting is better than retail. This was another great speech. This young man came in, he was all dressed up, he looked fantastic, even his shoes, and he said everything he had on cost him less than $20. He had a vest, a nice dress shirt, a tie, dress pants, a belt, shoes, everything, and he got it all from thrifting. So, you know, you can get some really cool things. I know there's some nice places out there. But now I've noticed that they've raised their prices when I have been in there. So I might as well just buy from Penny's or Kohl's and use a 30% off coupon and call it a day. However, you know, it's fun that, you know, you can find some things. This speech was about using essential oils and how essential oils can help you. My husband's been doing it for migraines. He doesn't actually have migraines though, but he thinks that it helps with any headache. I've been using Tiger Balm, which is a little bit, you know, of aromatherapy kind of a thing for like knee or, you know, sore foot if you've been working out or anything. Recycling, some of you did your speeches on that for your impromptu. You know, reduce, reuse, recycle. You can't say enough about it. It's so important, and I know some of you did a great job with that. And then this is just a controversial issue. I thought I'd throw it out for fun, and this is, should men be able to opt out of fatherhood? And that was that very famous case, gosh, I think about 5-6 years ago, where this young man, I think it was from Bay City, and he said he didn't want kids, his girlfriend didn't want kids. Well, she got pregnant. And he's like, I told you I didn't want kids, so I'm out. I'm opting out. I am not gonna have any role in this. Well, the judge said, I don't think so, not so fast, buddy. You're paying child support. You know, you helped make this kid. Yes, but I already told her I didn't want kids. Okay, so it is controversy because we wonder, you know, you can't really plan everything. You say one thing and then you might say something different in 3 years, but you know, it was really interesting that he said I was very clear with her that this could never happen, and then something happened. So, you know, what I always say is if you're gonna play, you gotta pay, but that was an interesting case, and yes, it went to court, and yes, you know, it did not go in his favor. Okay, next, I wanted to mention your persuasive speech rough draft is due April 12th. And then your speech is due the 16th. So it's coming quickly. Use the examples that I've given you online. I think I gave you one about, I can't remember what it was about. Maybe the Flint City Market, you know, reasons why you should go to any city market for fresh food, vegetables, all that. Then you're gonna do the tribute. The tribute, you don't need to give me an outline. I got it, I understand. I don't need a rough draft. It's only 2 or 3 minutes. Yes, you can use the visual aid. These are usually personal speeches about someone in your life that has impacted your life. It can be a grandma, a grandpa, a cousin, a coach, a counselor, a sergeant, a friend, a dog. I mean, you know, any of that. Some people want to talk about a place that was very inspiring in their life, kind of like what we did at the beginning of the semester. Some people want to talk about an event. I did have a student that was in my class that was living in New York City during 9/11. She was 16. She didn't find her family for 3 days. She couldn't get back down to their apartment. It was just a mess. She says she will never, ever, ever in her life forget, you know, the color of the sky, the sound, the cries, the noise. Just horrific experience for her, but it really taught her a lot about human nature and how people pull together and help one another and care for one another. And she doesn't know what she wouldn't have done if people wouldn't have helped her. She was not in a building, but she was downtown and helped her to get to safety, and then later help her, you know, navigate the system to find her family. Quite a story. So there may have been an event in your life that changed your path. And you contribute that, but most people do use people in their lives that they're close to. I have had one on Taylor Swift. I had a good speech on that. I had another speech on the pitcher for the Tigers that threw the new hitter, Armando Galarraga. I'm probably saying it wrong, but he threw a no-hitter, but then the umpire said that he did not on the last pitch or something crazy like that, and everybody was like, what? But he was very gentlemanly and he just accepted it. But really, he threw a no-hitter. It's getting dark out here. So let me tell you a little bit about that tribute. Again, it's 2 to 3 minutes. Just use a very nice form. I gave you the sheet. So it's right in there for your assignment about how to do a tribute. It can be very key phrase outline, very easy. Examples, here's some. My grandma. There's one, somebody's grandma. My grandpa. the street she grew up, a tribute to Pine Street. Excuse me. Another one to a mom. Hold on. A tribute to my parents. Someone cared about their parents, which is great. Another one for Grandma. A tribute to sports in general, that it has made a big difference in this person's life. A tribute to Grandpa, my mom, my dad, and I did have a tribute to my lawn. All right, so what I would say going forward is you really only have 2 speeches left. Let's get them done. Be on time, try to get things in early. Again, no rough draft needed for the tribute, just a very basic key phrase outline when you get ready to get it. No research needed. You can use the picture if you want to. The final thing you're going to do for me is just submit a reflection. And I've put everything. I've turned the modules on, but they're not, you could get things in, but they're not really ready to be submitted. I just want you to know that it's all there. And you will do a reflection or kind of a summary of your experience in class. And there's also a little thing about nonverbal and body language that you can look at to use for your quiz. I think it's your last quiz. And I'll also have you say goodbye, like a quick impromptu goodbye to everybody in class, kind of just for fun. And I'd like you to reply to anybody for that. So anyway, I've really been enjoying our class. I also want to remind you, I'm going to put an announcement out there. Please do the MOT evaluations that they're sending to your email. They want you to do those. This reflection is different. This one is just for me that's in the class, just to see what you remember about class, how you feel you've grown. And if you haven't, that's fine too. I mean, I'm not gonna, hurt your grade because you say something that you didn't like it, but I think most of you have really shown that you can organize a speech and deliver a nice speech, and your feedback to one another has been just excellent. Thanks, you guys. Take care. I better go in. It's getting dark. Bye-bye.